Shalom and welcome to a new edition here on the Genesis 49ers page, where we say no to vague interpretations and we give thorough breakdowns. Today's topic is a goodie. Today's topic is going to be on Pirua, Hebrews of South America, and Pirua is where you get the word Peru from, okay? And we're going to exemplify and show and demonstrate how this word is of Hebraic origin and proves that the ancient Indians of South America, Indios, South America, are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Okay? Even more proof. And we're going to touch on Naphtali. We're going to touch on the Inca Kings. We're going to touch on various things throughout this presentation. So get your pens, your note paper, take notes. This is going to be very insightful for the brothers and sisters out there listening. First slide. Lingua, which means language or tongue. It says, linguistic argument form a large portion of Montezino's proofs that South America, South America was settled by peoples from the Holy Land who traded regularly with ancient Israel. His chapters 8, 9, 10 focus on showing that many native South American place names are found in the Bible. Source, the Quito manuscript by Fernando de Montesinos, page 37. And the thing about the Quito manuscript is one of the sole sources for the ancient Inca people, okay, of Quito, okay? It's the only surviving source. So guess what? He is the authority. He's the authority. And what is he bringing out? The Hebraic nature of their history, of the Inca people's history. Okay? That's what the Quito manuscript is about. $70 on Amazon, I believe. Good purchase. Worth every penny for the invaluable history that's found within the writings. Next slide. So basically, a lot of his arguments come from a linguistic argument, and he can see that the writings of Peru, of ancient Peru, could match Hebrew, okay? A lot of Hebrew conics, right? And to the right, you see the barn stone with the Punic inscription. Next slide. Here's some examples of what Montesinos was referring to. Palu. Palu was the son of Reuben, right? And I got the scripture right there. You can check it out on your own. Genesis 46 and 9. That was a name that you can find in the Bible, H6396. And that's also an Incan king, Incan King Palu. He had a Hebrew name, right? Palu means distinguished, okay? Kusi, which is Cushi, right? Jeremiah 34:16 is an example of that, H3570. And we know what Cushi means. My video I did prior to this went over Cushi, which means their blackness. It denotes having black skin. And we know that the native Indians were dark-skinned, the original ones. Brazil, 1 Samuel 17:27. I know a lot of people say, well, the Portuguese call Brazil because of the Brazil wood. But we also know that Brazil is a Hebrew word, okay, which means iron. You can find an example exemplified in 1 Samuel 17, verse 27. H1271 is where you can locate that in the Strong, where you find Brazili. He helped David in his time of need when he was warring with his son Absalom, right? Brazili, which means my iron. Chile, you can find that in Ruth 1:2. H3631 is where you can find that in the Strongs, and it means to pine away. Okay, but the Mapuche Indian word Chile means the end of the earth. Peru, 1 Kings 4:17, where you find the word Parua. H615 is where you can find that. That's a Hebrew word, Parua. Okay, now let's read the quote to the right of the screen. Philology is the study of language and written historical sources. It is a combination of literary criticism, history, and linguistics, and that's what I'll continue to do in my videos, is show philology and the study of different sources and different languages and different Indian tribes to show and prove that there are Aramaic, Hebraic, Assyrian ties, showing that they come from the Middle East. Okay, It says a combination of literary criticism, history, and linguistics. It is more commonly defined as the study of literary texts and written records, the establishment of their authenticity in their original form, and the determination of their meaning. Okay, so that's what we brought out with Palu, Cusi, Brazil, Chile, and Peru. And there's many more. Manasi, which is a Manassite, someone in the tribe of Manasseh. Akshiri, that's another example. The tribe of Asher, that's found within, that's an Indian group found within Brazil, South America. Okay, next slide. Pirua. Let's get right into the meat of the subject, Pirua. The author also used etymology of Pirua as an opportunity to refer to a myth about the first Peruvian king. And what we know about myths, ehemerism, that's the study of myths to find historical veracity within the myth. Because a lot of times people would teach their history with mythos. Okay, that's how the ancient man would do it. So the first Peruvian king, Pirua Parimanco, who brought seeds to Cusco. Valera claimed that the first Andean king was Pirua Pacaric Manco, that he worshipped the creator. Source, the Quito manuscript by Fernando de Montesinos. So Pirua was the first Peruvian king according to the records. Okay, 1 Kings 4:17, Jehoshaphat, the son of Pirua and Issachar. Okay, Pirua. He was the son of Pirua. So you can see that word Pirua or Parua, that is a Hebrew cognate found within the Incas mythos and their records. And that's where you get the name Peru from the Inca King Pirua, which is an Hebrew word, Parua. And again, that's H6515 for the viewers out there. All right, I want to touch on how they were maritime people, because you got to understand something. A lot of people, when they think about Indians, oh, they were maritime. How you think they got over here? You think they walked an ice bridge called the Bering Strait? That's theology. That's madness. That you can't prove that. That's unproven. That's a theory. We're not talking about theories. We're talking about what's found in records and what can be verified. We can verify that within the Indian records, like I brought out in my prior videos, the Israelites discovered America. Check that out. That they have in their records that they came over here from the east by the way of ships. But let's talk about how the Incas were maritime people. It says in this quote right here to the left, on the left of your screen, the early Spanish explorers recorded the many voyages the Inca made with these balsa and reed raft type ships out into the ocean to the eastern islands and back. A Spanish missionary, Father Jose de Acosta, who spent 14 years in Peru, recorded in the Natural and Moral History of the Indies that the Inca Indians at Ica and those of Arica, which is Chile, 750 miles to the south, told the Spaniards that in ancient times they used to sail into the South Seas, where they visited some islands far, far away toward the west. So they would sail the seas. They had that capability. And what were they doing? Trade, okay, or traveling and exploring. Before the Spanish landed in Peru, a report was sent by Juan de Simanos to the Spaniard Emperor Charles V, Carlos, of a large raft sighting and captured by Francisco Pizarro and his pilot Bartolomé Ruiz in 1526 as they sailed south off the northern Ecuador. They reported seeing a large raft of almost equal size of their own ship going in the opposite direction. The large raft was captured by Spaniards and was found to have a crew of 20 Indian men. And I also did a previous video on this as well, talking about how they took those Indian men and they enslaved them and sold them to, I think, Algiers in North Africa. But the point here is they had a ship that was almost equal size to the Spanish ship, and it was traveling opposite direction. Letting you know that the Indians had naval power. They were a maritime people. The large raft was captured by the Spaniards and was found to have a crew of 20 Indian men. They noted it was a merchant vessel, meaning what? They did trade, maritime trade, heavily laden with cargo, estimated about 36 tons as compared with the 40 tons of their own caravel. The description matched similar historic records of simply constructed large rafts. Many thousand years ago, ancient travelers utilizing primitive rafts along with lower sea levels could possibly have traveled from island to island to cross the Pacific. So it's basically breaking down how these Indians were maritime. And they have stories of their ancient men being maritime people. Let you know what? That the Native Indians sailed over here. They were more than capable. Indians and the Americans, the Untold Story by William Marder is the source, page 22. Okay, now let's get Deuteronomy 33 and 23, because I said we're going to touch on Naphtali. It says, and of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with the blessing of the Lord, because the Incas were a very rich nation. They were very rich. They clothed themselves well. Okay, I'm going to use that image of how they clothed themselves, very Middle Eastern garb, head wrap, nice garments, weaved and full of designs. That is very expensive to do. Those dyes and those designs. In the ancient world, that was a very expensive garment. So they was Argentine was known to have the most silver and all the gold and the riches when the kings would have plates of gold. So they were full of blessings of the Lord, okay, and satisfied with favor. It says, possess thou the west and the south. Now, this is the King James Version, but the west is actually a mistranslation. Okay, west is mistranslated from the word yam, which means sea. So Naphtali was prophesied to be a seafaring people. It should say, possess thou the sea in the south. Why? Because they would be a seafaring people. And what we just read a source that exemplifies that notion. Okay, possess the south, i.e. South America, Arserif, which is the Western Hemisphere. They would be in the Western Hemisphere, and I'm going to give you the scripture to prove that at the end of the presentation. Okay. So, why are we talking about Naphtali? Because the Incas derive from Naphtali. They themselves say they come from a people called the Cha-na-pata, right? Which is Naphtali, okay? Cha in Hebrew means the living, Napata from Naphtali. Not the Ethiopian Napata, but the Hebrew Napata when you drop the L through metathesis. Next slide. Genesis 49. My channel's Genesis 49ers. Why? Because this team, this is set up to bring out the truth about Genesis 49 and who it pertains to, which is the Native Indians, the West Africans, the American Negro. You are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. The hind is a female red deer whose home is in the mountains. And I got in quotations Andean, because the Andean mountain range will be possessed by the Israelites. Okay, mainly of the tribe of Naphtali. Okay, and also how the Lord showed them favor is they was the largest Native Indian group recorded. I think 20 to 40 million lived in the Andean mountain range. And it says goodly words, right? Because Genesis 49:21 says Naphtali is a hind let loose, letting you know what they'll be compared to a hind, a female deer. That and what do? They live in the high mountain areas. He giveth goodly words, and I'm going to explain that through this source right here to the left. The bottom left of your screen. It says, consider the Inca rulers as models of natural virtue and wisdom, like the Jewish kings of the Old Testament. In fact, he attributes long list of proverbs to the emperors, particularly to Pachacuti. These proverbs undoubtedly are intended to echo the Solomonic proverbs of the Old Testament and to implicitly compare the Inca kings to the ancient biblical rulers. The Inca emperor, in Valera's view, was a well-ordered land of plenty, where justice and law were assured to all the citizens. Centers of higher learning flourished in the capital under the guidance of the Amoata, wise men who taught poetry, music, philosophy, astrology, and how to speak with elegance and taste. The scripture says he giveth goodly words, and that's what they would make sure that their men and their people would do. Speak with elegance and taste. That's those goodly words. Although other chronicles would commend to rule of the Incas, none surpassed Valera in praising the manifold virtues of the Tawanatizuhu and its noble kings. Moreover, none were so eloquent in defending the cause of Atahualpa, the victor of the Inca Civil War and the last Inca king. So the point I want to bring out of that is speaking with elegance and taste. That was when the Amoata. They was known for that. That's why the scripture says he giveth goodly words. And the source is the Jesuit and the Incas by Sabine Highland, page 121. She edited the ancient writings of the Jesuits, okay, on the Incas. Next slide. Hind. Let's go into that deer because the scripture says Naphtali is a hind let loose. And this is why I said this channel is made to give thorough breakdowns. We're going to break this down. Okay. A hind is a female deer, right? Deer. Other ungulates of the Andes include two large, high-altitude grassland deer. That's why the Lord compared Naphtali to a hind let loose, okay? Because it would be like that hind and go into a high habitation within the mountains, high altitude. Grassland deer, which are among the more frequently seen animals in Peru. Again, it goes more into the comparison of the deer, and this is the most frequently seen animal in Peru. The Andean humal, or taruca, as is known in Quechua, is the rare of the two and now considered to be endangered. It is found at extremely high altitude where its presence depends upon the availability of cover. Mostly isolated patches of quina woodland where are increasingly threatened by a growing local need of firewood. So it just goes into how that deer lives in that area. And also, I want to deal with real quick, I don't have in my notes on the slides, but Naphtali means to wrestle. And we know about the Inca kings, they used to wrestle for positions of power within their government structure, right? That shows that they fit the prophecy. So let's go into the last slide. And it says America. It says Deuteronomy 33 and 17. I've been using this scripture a lot because this is really the nail in the coffin. See, you can argue all you want with your, because at the end of the day, all you have is an argument. What you imagine what Arserif is, or your perception or your point of view. But at the end of the day, the scripture is concise on this matter. Deuteronomy 33 and 17 is clear. It says, his glory is like the first thing of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of the unicorns, meaning his power. He'll be a powerful people. Horns signify power, and unicorns are a rhinoceros, a very powerful animal. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. With the power that Ephraim will muster. After Cyrus gave the Israelites amnesty, they would use that power and influence to take their people to the ends of the earth. Like in I think Zechariah, the 10th chapter says they found no place in Lebanon and Gilead. So majority of them left. And where did they go? Deuteronomy 33 and 17 tell you, to the ends of the earth, the western hemisphere. And they are the 10,000 of Ephraim, and they are the 1,000 of Manasseh. But it doesn't end there in Deuteronomy 33. It gets even more specific when you go to verse 28. It says, Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. The area that they would go to, they would dwell safety alone. They would be isolated where no mankind dwell. America. This is America. This is clearly America. Painfully obvious America. Okay, so when the scriptures say Naphtali will possess the south and the west or the seas, it's talking about South America. Okay, and they'll be a maritime people, as we exemplified in the prior slides. Israel then shall dwell in safety alone. The fountain of Jacob shall be upon a land of corn and wine, and his heaven shall drop down dew. And what is famous about America? The corn here. And I know the word corn can mean ears of wheat, ears of, different grains and stuff like that. But we know the corn here was famous. This place was rich with that. So the prophecy fits this land. An isolated place where Israel can dwell safety alone. It's at the ends of the earth. This is not Africa. This is not Europe. Those are not the ends of the earth. Period. And all of the scriptures talk about crossing a seas, crossing water. You don't have to cross the sea to get to Africa. You don't have to, or West Africa, South Africa, or Europe, or Turkey. You don't have to do that. But to get to America, you have to cross the sea. And even the Midrash source states the 10 tribes are beyond the Sambat Yatan, which was a body of water. Now you can go into the different interpretations of the Sambat Yatan, Sambat Yun, but it's a body of water. Yun goes into water or sea. Okay. So, with that being stated, let me add one more note to this. Because we also got to understand what? That the Incas teach that they come from an ancient people known as the Shanapata, which is the Naphtali, man. We find all these cognates, we find, through philology and study and research, and we see these things. It's clear, all right? So with that, I'm going to conclude the lesson. I pray that was very insightful. I pray that this is giving you a lot of material to work with and clearing up the different discrepancies, because when we deal with the 12 tribe chart and the Israelites being the native Indians, a lot of backlash comes from really because these topics have not been touched on in great detail. That's what my channel is for. We will touch on these topics and bring it to the forefront here on Genesis 49ers. No more vague descriptions, no more vague interpretations. We're going to give you thorough breakdowns, just like this video and the videos prior and the videos to come. More videos to come. Subscribe, comment, share on the different social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, IG, etc. And expect more content like this and more to be released in the near future. With that, I say shalom. Genesis 49ers signing out.